Qualify the Podcast, Season 3. We're back. Sneakerheads are back. I got Alfredo from Sneaker Club HTX in the building. We're Zoom chatting today, just really based on scheduling and because we needed to sit down and talk about this really quickly. So we have some topics that we needed to cover in continuation of what we did in the booth, but then also some new stuff. With that being said, Alfredo, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Can't complain.
We got some topics concerning the sneaker news and then just in general sneaker world, but let's get into it. The top releases for the year, as a hype. We'll just call it hype. Heat hype. Either way, clearly they're not going to be an eclectic collection of shoes. It's going to be a lot of usual suspects. But what are the top choices for the year?
Oh man, I mean, any of the Jordan 1s outside of the one that dropped the very first release of the year, I think it was the Volt Golds. That didn't do as hot. I think Nike played that well, throwing it first, like, let's get this out the way. As far as hype this year, I'm going to base this on resale value and also the demand that I saw for it.
Okay.
Obviously, we're going to leave the cool gray 11s out of this because it's the Christmas J.
Okay.
But this year we saw a lot of dope Jordan 4s, from the UNC Jordan 4s to the Lightning or Tour Yellow Jordan 4. That was two really hype, sought after releases this year. So the Jordan 4s did very well this year. Jordan 3s did great this year. I mean, we got a Jordan 1, it felt like twice a month, every month for the entire year.
Yeah.
The Ama Meuniers, the collabs that was released, those are very hype, the 1s and the 3s. Some of Travis's releases, even though the Air Maxes didn't get a full release, it did release.
Yeah. A
lot of hype around that. That easily jumped up to a $3,000 shoe when everything was canceled. So $160 Air Max going for $3,000. Yeah, it's a lot of hype on that.
Right.
A lot of Jordan 1s, like I said. And in addition to that, and I got some of them here, we did talk about this on the podcast a little earlier, but we did get the LeBron 8 South Beaches this year.
Yep.
If you go back a couple of episodes, you will see we were live for that cop, and the hype was there. That shoe's still running about $400 easy. And then anything that was pretty much a collab. I mean, everything that's off-white now is highly sought after right now. So all of his shoes are doubled in price. So any of those releases from this year, definitely another hype one. So hopefully here soon we can do maybe a top 10 list that I can go over maybe what my favorites were. But at the same time, as far as this year, some of my favorites weren't some of those hype ones. Some of them I was just happy to get back in the collection, like and this was probably the one I was waiting for the most, was the Jordan 13 Flint. The Flint 13s.
Yeah, okay.
The Flint 13s was definitely one of my favorite releases from this year. And a lot of people just forgot it happened. I was waiting for that all year. I mean, that was the one shoe I was very hyped about. The Griffeys, they re-released the Griffey 1s in 3 different colors. Yeah, more than 3. They had it's like a Jackie Robinson collab. It was like an all-black shoe. Instead of 24, it had 42. And then you had another one, a swingman version of it. So they did drop a good bit of Griffeys, probably at least 5 pairs of Griffeys. But those are probably the hype sneakers of the year. Very good year for sneakers, though. Very good year for sneakers.
I'd agree. You know what's interesting? So like if I look at my Instagram feed, like I know what it looks like in terms of like the content, right, in the algorithm, right, based on what I look at. I would almost imagine that yours looks the polar opposite of mine when it comes down to shoes, right?
Yes.
Like I have and I just full confession, I have less Jordans that pop up on the feed. I mean, I get some, but I get Diodoras, I get, retros, a lot of retros, which it tends to propel me in the way of what I'm buying, which we'll get into in the other segment. But I see those a lot often. Now that I was a part of being in line for the Lightnings and documenting the LeBron release, like that was now it changed my algorithm because I was talking about it the whole time. And so, it says, well, if you like this, then you probably want to see all Jordans all the time. It took me
Right.
weeks to scrub that off my phone. Like, it's just, I didn't want to see all of that consistently.
Oh man, yes.
Uh, I agree with you on all of this though, because we're looking at the popularity of the feeds and night, other platforms are dropping the notifications about what has been released. Um,
Hmm.
you're right. The Travis Scott Air Max did not get a lot of play, didn't get a lot of promotion. I'm almost thinking that maybe there was another release that eclipsed it, but I couldn't imagine what it would be because he's who he is.
Right.
Uh, but you called it. How much do you think that shoe was going to be right now?
Oh, oh God, the Air Maxes are $3,000. Don't forget he dropped a high and a low one this year too. So
Right, and that
I
one
mean,
is
it's
four
not like
grand.
Travis. The one is $4,000. The one low is about 1,500. So I mean, don't feel sorry for Travis because he had plenty of shoes that had a lot of hype drop. And
Yeah.
it's interesting now that I think about it. Of the four that we just spoke about, three of the four ended up not really having a full release because they
Mm,
never dropped the Jordan 1 high on Nike. They
right.
never dropped the Air Maxes on Nike. The only one that really got a full release that everybody got a chance to go after was really the one lows.
So my curiosity in that thinks that could it be that his brand, the Cactus Jack brand, you think they made a deal with a limited release, meaning that it's only out of a licensed outlet and boutique stores only?
Mhm.
But if so, then
No,
why? Because I mean, why wouldn't you have it on Nike's website?
the thing that with the Jordan 1 high specifically is that they were trying to figure out a way to release these shoes and make it more fair for manual coppers to get it compared to guys and gals with bots.
Mm,
Obviously, bots are a trending topic in the sneakerhead community. You even see in the government step in now,
all
and they're
that.
starting to put bans on botting and stuff like that. So Nike knew how hype that Travis Scott high release was, and they were just trying to find a clean way to release it, which they still have not. I mean, they've been testing the waters with other shoes. The LeBron draw, that's the first time they ever did like an hour draw that you had a whole hour to get your entries in. I mean, they've tried so many different things or so many different shoes. I mean, I think there was a recent release where they didn't even have a draw; they just dropped it.
Mm, yeah.
So they're still working their way around that. I would say they're getting better, but still some work to be done. But as far as the Travis Scott ones, it was more trying to get those bot situations eliminated.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I think they shorted themselves on what would be, clearly a $500 million worth of profit, but in the
Huh?
interest of the
No.
marketplace and keeping the consumers happy, I don't see where it's feasible that someone would outright strike Nike. You see what I'm saying? Like, you
Mm-hmm.
could have these problems in a beta platform where release these test ways of how people can cop the shoes. But honestly,
Mm-hmm.
if you're stuck with the same way, it wouldn't have changed how much you're appreciated. Just say, hey, deal with it, suckers. Sorry. And and just let them keep going.
I'll go down this rabbit hole easy because I was going to bring up how in Nike's financial report they were talking about some of the factors that they're concerned about, and they were all actually talking about other brands.
Okay.
And specifically, I think they're representing New Balance. New Balance did a great job this year. Producing some very high quality sneakers,
Yep.
so in some very nice colorways. They put a nice little dent in the market.
Yeah.
Puma did their thing. Them having Lamelo Ball definitely helps.
Yep.
Um, having Jay Z really push that line also,
Saw
it
that.
definitely helped. Reebok's trying to make a comeback, and then you got the usual suspect Adidas. They did a great job with their Yeezys. They brought on Beyonce. That sold like crazy. There was a lot of different factors in addition to bots that Nike had to worry about and really contributed to why they were kind of seeing a down year.
Okay, but down by comparison with, and look, I'm not a corp. I'm saying this in
Yeah.
terms of a $1 billion conglomerate, right? A
Mm-hmm.
down year to Nike having a 10% loss is essentially the same thing as another brand of shoes going out of business. You know,
Completely out of business. Correct.
like
I
like
want to say
Nike's
they
10%
were.
loss is somebody else's lights cutting out.
I think they were sitting somewhere in the middle of the year. They were like 700 million in the negative.
In the negative.
It was some crazy number that they were in the negative. I'm like, man, look, if I had to owe anybody that much money,
Yeah,
whew,
no, that'd be it. That would be it. But
it would be
meanwhile,
tragic.
while they're owing someone this much money, CEOs over here getting suntans and on top of a yacht, like, oh, it's down that far. Okay, we'll just wait until it gets a billion. Granted, the that amount of revenue, when you look at a corporate perspective, if they start losing, they don't look at numbers, they look at percentages. We look at the numbers because essentially in our tax bracket, we keep looking at it like, oh wow, that's a lot of money. But to them, it's a productivity and performance concept. Oh, we're down 10% of our performance as a monolith. We're down 10%. So how can we increase this? Well, there's means and ways of how to do this. But what were you going to say?
Oh, don't forget that also you got VPs who got sons that are resellers that was stealing inventory and using the corporate card and all that fun stuff too. So Nike has had some headaches this year, to say the least. And this Travis situation ain't helping their model at all. But they're still on top.
Still on top.
They're still on top. Yes.
Still on top. That's insane when you think about, again, like when I did the marketing research, right? And which we'll get into later, but we did the marketing research, and the marketing plans for, we'll call it number 4 and 5, or maybe 5 and 6 brand, says there's absolutely, I read it myself, it said there's absolutely no way we are going to try to compete with Nike. We are concerned with these other tiers of people. Nike's Nike, leave them alone. And then we'll worry about this. That's like Zeus versus Poseidon. So no, we can fight Poseidon. Like, we leave Zeus out of this.
Exactly. Nobody wants to wake up the big dog on the street. That's for sure.
And ideally, though, I think that's where my curiosity comes into play when it comes to the board meetings, having Nike have the discussion of, okay, our percentage is down, why? And then you talk to your marketers and you can say, well, there's bad press with VP's son, having a warehouse full of shoes, while Joe Schmo common person can't win on the app. The kid is the app. He legitimately is the app. And by the way, there's no reason why he even needed to.
Exactly. It doesn't help that he was using a Nike card for it too. That's crazy. This kid pulled off the caper of the year.
And then your mom had to resign.
So I hope those sneaker sales are doing well, sir.
Yeah. Hope the both of you can survive on the resale profit. Yeah. Good job.
Exactly. Yes.
Crazy. You didn't mention, and I don't think that they were categorically a part of the release of the year, but you didn't mention the Comme des Garçons collaboration off the Flight Posit.
Man, I am so heavy Jordan, Nike-ish that some of those things do not, blip on my radar, but it's still a dope sneaker and should be included in the top sneakers of this year releases, because it's a dope. I mean, Comme des Garçons has always been a dope collab. They've always dropped some dope sneakers. So,
well, take it easy. There's some platform shoes that really, all right. Look, what do we do?
That's very true. That's very true. Look, Nike is guilty of the same thing, dropping some sneakers like, what in the world? If you go look at the, oh God, what do you call overbreak, or it's something that I guess they were trying to over boost a sneaker. Right. It looks crazy. I'm like, Nike, come on, you could have took that materials and dropped me a Jordan that I wanted. But hey, you gotta field everyone.
Who's in the room where the person comes to, the design team and says, hey, listen, if we went to Mars, here's what I want the shoe to look like. And they said, well, that's interesting, Trevor. Who do you think is going to buy this? And he says, 14 people. And they let him go.
And they let him do it.
Nope. Bad move.
Bad move, sir.
I agree that the Comme des Garçons release was pretty cool. I actually, when I was picking up the Alma Marnier, when I submitted for the drawing, I was looking at them and I asked, I said, hey, where are the Comme des Garçons Flight Posits? I wanted the white ones because you know how I feel about monochromatic black shoes.
Did they actually release that shoe? Is
They
it
did.
out now? They
Oh, it's
did.
out.
It's like a $300, $400 shoe, isn't it?
It's about
Retail.
520.
Retail.
Oh, retail's 430. 430. Yeah. Now, let's just talk about this for a second. It's not like, look, I wanted it, but I didn't want it for $430, right? Like off the rip. If I wanted it that bad, of course, I'll buy it resale, but that's a resale price.
That's a resale price, yes.
And I don't, and here's where I'm confused. I don't understand how you could have a Comme des Garçons line of Chuck Taylors, and they
Right.
were all, most expensive Chuck
Reasonably.
Taylors, for retail, 150, 130, bandwidth, right? A standard Jordan non-popular release price. But then you come out with the Flight Posit, and the Flight Posit is 3 times as much. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And then also, Social Status didn't sell it. They said, no, you have to go to, like either Comme des Garçons directly, or,
oh my God.
I mean, it was, and there was another store, and I can't remember the name, but buying a CDG as a brand line, it's on par with CDG prices, but it's not on par with Nike prices.
Right.
So that makes,
where do you have that balance?
so yeah. So I think it's a much more limited release, of course, but it did drop. It did drop.
Okay.
And no, I did not buy it, and I don't think I'm going to.
But if anybody wants to seed him a pair, please feel free.
Yeah. If anybody wants to, hey, look, if you want to cash out me half of it, I'll make up the balance. It's fine. It's just my principles won't allow me to spend 400. I might have very expensive cowboy boots, exotic skins, all that stuff, but I can justify that kind of. I cannot justify a $500 Flight Posit, and I don't even know my size in foams. I agree with you. It's been a really, really good year for the shoes. Jordan's, the brand, has taken, the stronghold in terms of all the releases. New Balance did have a couple of new drops. They stay within the same platform of the 990 and the 574.
And they had a bunch of 550s that they dropped in a bunch of different colors this year too. So I mean, they definitely flooded the market with some really high quality sneakers.
The business model of a New Balance in terms of flooding the market, and I respect it. I mean, I get it. It's the antithesis of Nike. So, they're going to flood the market with 3 to 4 platform or silhouettes and knock out all the colors, and that will hit anyone else's interest. And look, it's a really comfortable shoe. Like I love New Balances in terms of, how I move and travel and walk in them. But I am concerned that New Balance's direct competition, in my opinion, is ASICS. So if New Balance is under the same release marketing model as an ASIC, it means you're going to stay with a steady silhouette, 3 of these in New Balance's case. ASICS comes out with every gel light pattern color collaboration known to man, but they're flooding the market with those too, right? And from an international perspective, I think that those two run neck and neck in competition price point. But I would buy the ASICS, the gel collaborations. I would buy the ASICS gel collaborations before I bought a New Balance. Still stigmatized as a dad shoe. Can't shake it.
Right. But New Balance did a great job with also their collabs. I mean, Joe Fresh Goods was one of the collabs they had this year. I'm pretty sure there's some other companies that they collab with. So it wasn't just, you rarely see ASIC collab with anybody. New Balance, you're starting to see it, and they're all playing from the Nike playbook. Once Nike started doing collabs, it just shot up. Everybody wanted it. So now they're starting to have influencers and collabs, and they're starting to see the benefit of moving in that direction. So if you can't beat them, join them.
Can't beat them, join them. No, I agree. I think the theory with ASICS in terms of where I see the collaboration model happening more is that I'm under the impression, might be wrong, probably not, that they have branded and brand licensed the Gel Light 3, just that in itself. And so now it allows for any boutique store to run the opportunity to collaborate with just that platform. So I hadn't seen anything else. It was either the Gel Light 3 or the Gel Light MT. And, you get Ronnie Fieg with Kith, you get Italian brands, the Thai group Sabotage Surplus. They actually did one that was really nice, but you could only get it through their website. which, leads you back to, if it's not on ASICS or if it's not on Onitsuka website, I'm thinking it's a limited licensing agreement just off of that platform, just off that silhouette.
Yeah. No, I believe you're right on that.
Cool Gray's release on, what was it, last week?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yes.
All right. So at the time of this recording, that was about 4 days ago.
Mhm.
And what I saw is complete and utter chaos when it came down to getting this shoe. And I'm curious because we documented that this is going to be in 3 stages of release. Number 1, it was the sneaky release that Nike did, right?
Yep.
Then it comes out to this release, which is the standard release, and then there's going to be a pre-Christmas last minute, crunch release.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This release in general, though, I think is for the standard marketplace, where it just lets people know, hey, you need to get them now so you can get them mailed off to whoever you need to for Christmas. There's still time. But what I saw on news reports as well as on Instagram, social media, looked like the Gamma Blue release of 2003. Like, it was just insane. I'm concerned people getting shot. There's like fights everywhere. And I'm thinking, just my thought, I think this has more to do with supply chain issues this year, and the thought process of limited availability than it is just the entirety of this resale cop market.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you on that. I think that was one of the main factors that caused a lot of the chaos. I'll say a 1B to that is that the sneaker hasn't released since, in 15 years?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we've only got like 3 iterations of this shoe, with this being the 3rd. So,
yeah.
And we was expecting it to come out last year. So the hype was already there that they gave us something we didn't want. So now we finally got what we want. And with the pandemic and shipping issues and supply chain issues, yeah, it definitely contributed to the madness that you saw on Saturday, because they're still releasing sneakers now. I mean, Foot Locker just had their raffle literally 40 minutes ago.
Oh, really?
For another round of these shoes. Yes. Wow. That they're going to drop later on this week. So I agree with you. The main thing is the supply chain issues that added to the chaos that was Cool Gray's, because we didn't know if they were going to have them. We didn't know who was going to have them, when they were going to get pairs in stock. I know there's some stores around the city that just now getting their men's pairs and just raffled those off like literally yesterday.
Wow.
So yeah, the supply chain issues definitely added to the madness this year for sure. And as you can see, it was there wasn't a spot in the city that the hype wasn't real. It was crazy. Any and everywhere that had that shoe available.
Yeah, I went and Toy, gave me a message where she wanted me to kind of help her out, and shout out to Raw Kicks. And she says, hey, can you come through and grab a pair for me, because she's on the other side of town. Now, I, full confession, don't do this. Okay, so I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm just like, no, that's sis. I'm like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. And I'm on the Southwest anyway. I'm taking care of business. So when you say go pick up some shoes, in my non Jordan cop brain, because I'm a sneakerhead, but you know what I buy. So in my non Jordan brain, I'm like, okay, you bought them. Let me just go grab them and be on my merry way, like we did the last 3 times we went anywhere. I got there. I walked to the mall, got into, I was trying to find out where the store was. I'm calling them because yes. Most malls now, I don't know how this is in the rest of America. Shout out for wherever you are. Where we are, there's a lot of outdoor annexes now. A lot of things are outdoor mall concept and I think just because of refurbishment, they didn't feel like spending, 30 million redoing the mall when they can just restructure outside for 2 million, right? This place is inside the mall. So I'm going in a mall, like, ew, like walking through all these people, like, ew, and then I finally get to what I thought was the shoe store, but it wasn't. It was the line for the shoe store that was 2 stores before it. And I said, well, what is this? And I walked right past them because, what do I know? And so I walk past them, go directly up to the counter. You should have seen the amount of people like, bro, what the bro? Hey man, see?
Oh my God. Oh wow.
I'm on the
Wow.
phone with Toy, right?
Oh
So I'm on the phone with her, like, hey, by the way, I don't know if you want me in the line or did you just buy these already? She said, no, I didn't buy them. It's a raffle.
yeah.
I said, so, but you're speaking French to me. I was like, I don't raffle nothing. Like I buy
Right.
stuff and wait for it to get to my house. So,
Right.
so I was like, what does that mean by comparison to what we did last time? She said, no, you got to wait in line. I said, oh, I know you don't expect me to wait in this line. It's like, it's 145 people and they're all upset right now. Like it's
Yes.
145 people in this line. The first guy in front of the line, he's because the girl is looking at me in the front counter, like I broke a cardinal sin,
Yeah, you did.
which I did. Hey, listen, if you're listening, I know I did now. I didn't know it then. Okay. So I'm just asking a question, right? Because look, if you wanted me to stand in line, it would have been no problem. I just don't have
Right.
this kind of time. But
Yeah.
I would have. But the guy didn't know that. So I look and I'm on the phone and I turn around and I said, did I cut you in line? Like it was innocent reflex.
Innocent.
I was like,
Yes.
did I just cut you in line? And he says, yeah. I'm like, pardon me. That pardon self. I didn't know. I'm just asking a question and I'm out. Oh, okay, no problem. Because we know how this gets.
Right.
But I thought
Right.
about this and said, man, I was about to be on World Star. Like because I blew right past. There was no way I thought that applied to me in terms of what she
Man.
had me doing. Say, I almost got killed over here trying to get these shoes that I
Man,
don't
look.
want.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. You're one of the rare ones that you don't want.
Well, okay. And I'm also probably one of the rare ones that did something like that and got away unscathed. So,
Yes. Yes.
like one person, okay. 145 might be a problem.
Definitely.
It's weird negotiation, right?
Yes.
And I can run, but not that fast. So, there, but it was just, I really thought about it in retrospect. I said, wow, no, that would have been too crazy. And let me go further than this. I don't even like them when they first came out. Like
Mm,
when I look at a Jordan, there's a certain color pattern that I look at, and there's a lot that I respect. Um,
mm-hmm.
and I just look at them when they, first time came out. Cool gray never worked for me because they were almost too muted, right? It was just gray on gray on gray, which again, you know how I feel about monochromatic shoes. So
Yeah.
it never appealed to me. But what do you think the craze for this, colorway, not the shoe itself, but the colorway?
I don't. It's just something about an all gray sneaker. Jordan does a great job executing the different shades of gray on the sneaker. So I mean, you got two-tone gray on it, and they've done this on other shoes. We just had cool gray threes drop, cool gray fours, now cool gray 11s. It's just a clean silhouette, a clean colorway that you can just wear with almost anything.
Okay.
Now it's not to the level of Concords or Breads as far as uh, popularity, but
Sure.
it's not too far off from that as far as people's favorite Jordan colorway in the 11. I don't know, just something about that gray, that the white laces on it, and then just that bottom that's just so icy, just blue. Oh, I
Yeah.
have soul shields on mine because I want to keep mine icy. So
Okay.
get your soul shields, people. But yeah,
Sure, sure.
it's just a clean colorway. They did us right for the materials this year. Normally this would be mesh, but this year we got like almost a little suede on it. So
Okay.
they definitely upped the quality on it. But I think that colorway is a lot more popular than the one we got last year. As far as the OG original classics, it's just a little notch below it because I know Mike wore it when he was in Washington.
Okay.
So, and those are almost like the forgotten years when it comes
Yeah.
to sneakerheads. They were
Yeah.
about 1 through
45s.
14, right through the Bulls, and then after the Bulls, we could care less what he had on feet, but he actually wore these. He's played these in many games. And a lot of players in the NBA like it too. I know Jason Tatum had a pair sent to him last year, and that
Okay.
just put the world on a standstill. Like, oh my God, that's the cool grays. I think the colorway and the limited availability as far as the releases. I mean, like I said, this is only the third time we've gotten it, and since 2001, I think the first one came out, and then 15 years. So I think that is huge as far as why that is so high on that colorway, and it's a family shoe, so they came out in all sizes. So those family pictures that everybody likes to take at Christmas, they're going to have these. I actually had a girl hit me after the release. You give me a size. All right, what size you need? I can grab you one. Okay, perfect. 11, 10 and a half, 7, 8 and a half, 5, 1, and the booty.
Tribe. Okay.
Wow. All those pairs. And every reseller I've talked to, they got those customers that need it for the entire family. So that also, add to the hype. It's just the Christmas 11, the right colorway this year.
I respect this as far as the marketability of the shoe. It's just, it ain't one of mine, but I understand it. You know what? I'm going to take that back too. I do have a thing about monochromatic shoes. There are two shoes that I always wanted. I got one, couldn't get the last one. That were baseline, like triple whatever the color was. And that was the A6 Piedmont, which is a gel light platform. And then the other one was the 30th anniversary Kith A6 gel light, which I got in cream. And it's tough, and I haven't worn them yet. They give me anxiety. I mean, they are so clean, and it's just triple suede all the way down. Like, it is so nice. Damn good looking shoe. Piedmont's, just for nostalgic purposes, my dad had a pair of all gray dad shoes. Like, it's an all gray A6. And I used to take those when I was his size. I used to take them and wear them to school because I thought they were the coolest shoes ever. In retrospect, they're not, but I still want them. So if anybody's got some Piedmont A6 size 10 and a half, holler at me. I'll take them off your hands.
Has to be new. Has to be new.
They know the rules by now.
Don't come to him with any used sneakers. They have to be DS. Let's be clear.
You can have mine. Get out of my face. No, they know the rules by now. I'm not doing any of that. Used, only played basketball in once. None of that. No, thank you. I'll politely decline. Because we've been talking about this Nike and in the supply chain situation. The irony, in my opinion, or as a sarcastic girlfriend would say, I find it really funny that you have no ability to control the supply chain in the real world, but yet you're buying up everything that you can to establish yourself as a brand in the metaverse. So the 4 brands in the metaverse then from Nike would be the Nike main brand. It would be the Jordan brand. It would be Nike SB brand, and then Converse.
Converse, yes.
Which, marketing purposes, makes a whole lot of sense to me, because a Dunk is very common, even cartoonish shoe. Like, it's a very common high top, right? A Converse, extremely common as a Chuck Taylor with the white top, a standard block color upper. Like, anyone could recognize that, right? SB is also as recognizable, right?
Yes.
And then Nike in itself, essentially, when I think about this from a marketing perspective, if I was going to do Nike in the metaverse, they would be like trainers. They look like running, like your LeBrons, or the other things that are not a part of the alternative brands. But there is no supply chain that exists in the metaverse. It's just that you have a digital creator, and now you allow this for purchase because of the blockchain cryptocurrency.
Exactly.
So you can now, for the sake of the metaverse, buy land, buy art, buy shoes, and buy profiles, like avatars. And I'm sure there's more that you can buy as well. Have you dived into this personally at all?
I have not. I'm definitely intrigued by it, especially the NFTs and these creators creating these NFTs, and they're selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm pretty sure that may be the anomaly. I mean, it may not be what every NFT goes for. I haven't done a deep dive into it quite yet. I'm definitely curious. It's almost like how they were talking about Bitcoin at the early 2010s to jump
Sure.
in that now, and now look at it.
Yeah.
And here we are at the beginning of another decade with another digital form of, I'll call it currency, and it's going to. I feel like it's going to take off just like Bitcoin is doing now, and all the other cryptos. It's just
Well, at the time of this airing, I will be a registered NFT in the auction space. I did enough research on it now to find out that it's time to make the jump. But my interest would be art, because I have an art background and, quite honestly, a library of things that have been unpublished, even though I've been published in a few different areas. I think the other items that I have, clearly that's my intellectual property. Why not put it back out into a digital auction house so we can sell it for an NFT? Spoiler alert, I will be working on documenting this. I'm going to do a small series about how I got it online, who I used for the auction house, how I had it minted, and then also the currency that's used, which is currently Ethereum. I mean, there's no secret for it.
Ethereum, yeah.
But to your point, or to the statement you made, Bitcoin in itself has its own purpose in terms of where it can be used for its lateral use in and out of the metaverse, and or Ethereum now would be second largest, and then there are all the Shiba Inu and Dogecoin, all those. They're there. They don't have as good of a practicality, and a lot of places like these auction houses aren't using them. Like, you could only buy art in Ethereum right now as an NFT. And since I actually had Ethereum as cryptocurrency, well, let me just parlay my chips and put myself into the metaverse.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's freaking me out that I just said that, but like, it's coming, it's happening.
No, that's very exciting to be able to get into that different type of technology. And the future is now. I mean, this is where we are now. I mean, could you imagine talking about a metaverse? I won't even say 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
No.
I mean, metaverse wasn't even on the brain. I mean, we were just getting into Oculus and playing virtually and stuff like that. And they just trumped that and just made a complete world out of it, which is insane.
Yeah.
And I need to jump into that ASAP.
You should. Because back to shoes, if Nike is a brand that has put themselves in a position to exist in the metaverse, where they can sell shoes, then other brands will follow. And I would only imagine in the marketing of this, in order for them to maintain their price points, either in Ethereum and or any other cryptocurrency that gets introduced, if they're going to do that, they're going to limit the amount of product themselves that they actually have. So in a parallel, the benefit of being as an NFT, the benefit of having an NFT is that the originator of the NFT can sell that off, but whomever they sell it to, should you decide to sell it, resell, should you decide to sell it, the owner profits. So Nike now has found, oh, look, yeah, you figured it out. So Nike now has figured out a way that if Nike exists in the metaverse, then a reseller could exist in the metaverse, clearly. If that person buys a Nike, buys a Converse, buys an SB, sells it off to someone else, Nike is still going to get profit based on it being an NFT. NFTs are like pyramids. They always come back to the source.
That's what I was going to say. We just created a virtual pyramid scheme. It feels like
it's genius.
Wow.
It is genius.
It's genius. And I now regret that I'm not anywhere more knowledgeable about it than I should be. I'm definitely going to study up on this today, because that sounds, I mean, basically all I got to do is create something, create an NFT, and just watch it live forever. As long as the verse is viable, or for lack of a better term, popping.
Yeah, I mean, just very, not to rabbit hole this thing, but if I sold something for a penny, which it ain't gonna be, but if I sold something for a penny, you can't sell it for a penny unless you want to break even. You would naturally sell it for 3, right? And then based on whoever the artist in this case would be, it ain't going to be 3. It's going to be a lot more of an upsell branch than that. But a portion of that sale comes back to me because I created it. The next person, as I grow popular, they're going to sell it because now it's a commodity. So now they're going to sell it off to someone else. That still comes back to me. It's always something that comes back to the source. And before all of this changes, you need to get in it. You really do.
Yes. No,
Right.
I really do. So
All
I
right.
got some
So
homework to do, that's for sure. But thank you for sharing that. That is words and wisdom. Qualified is not charging you for this, but at least hit the like button for the
at
information that
least,
he is sharing. Please like and share with your friends.
yeah.
You're not going to get this information anywhere else. I mean, he's doing a great job bringing it to my attention. So let me go ahead and add my like to it as I watch.
Being no, I definitely appreciate that. If you're listening, you heard it from him first. You should. My intent, my purpose for these type of episodes, especially, is to try to inform. I mean, it's entertaining. We're talking about shoes, but this is not about shoes anymore, because the people who make the shoes aren't making it about shoes anymore. They're dominating a landscape that is virtual. Not to go all tinfoil
Yes.
hat and put newspapers on the windows like they're watching me, man. But it's happening. And
It's right before our eyes. Yeah.
yeah, so if somebody's going to profit on it, much like real estate, if they're going to buy up your block and gentrify it, you should be in on the profits of that too, if you can.
Thanks.
So I wanted to bring that up with Nike and the metaverse. So supply chains, though, takes us into the idea of Nike having the supply chain issue. Honestly, I think they're the only brand that actually admitted that they were, which I find it strange. But let's call it three. I don't count Nike SB as a brand extension outside of Nike. I'm sure they do. But Jordan is Jordan. That's Jumpman. Converse is Converse, always has been. But if Nike in itself is having supply chain issues, that means those three total companies are having supply chain issues.
Correct.
Why wouldn't someone else be having supply chain issues? You know, Puma or Fila, or not Fila, but we'll get into them in a second. But, you know, any of them, you know, they should be having the same issues with shipping, because all of that stuff is made overseas. There's not a shoe that's, you can call it American made, or excuse me, American brand. And none of them are made in America.
All right.
No, none of the big ones.
I don't know. Is it just the fact that Nike is just so big that people recognize that? I mean, they pretty much had to say something. Is it something where the other brands are not as big, and maybe their transgressions have, been swept under the rug because they're just not that it brand? Because I know Adidas is probably having the same supply chain issues for sure. They have to. I mean, their factories can't be too far away from Nike. I mean, they're all in the same country.
They're all made in Malaysia.
I mean, so you got to be seeing the same thing too. It's just not as public, or maybe the brand is just not big enough to where people care that they're having issues. Like, I mean, you go to Foot Locker right now, and there's like no Jordans to be found, but a bunch of New Balances.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like New Balance is having supply chain issues if they have, because the demand maybe is just not as high or there compared to a Nike, to where Nike had to say something.
Sure. You just made me think about something.
What's that?
And it will segue, but you just made me think about it, because what I did when I was doing a market analysis was that you do the SWOT. So it's the strengths, weaknesses, oppositions, and threats, right? Opportunities and threats.
Opportunities and threats, yeah.
One of the opportunities that I mentioned was that you warehouse locally, mass produce internationally, all you want, ship them in overabundance, and warehouse locally wherever your marketplace is more saturated. Because that way you don't have to deal with the supply chain issue now. If you're not selling in Utah, because that's more of a utilitarian state, the warehouse would be in Utah, and you distribute amongst the United States. Now you don't have to worry about anything other than trucking instead of shipping. It's a lesser problem, and you definitely meet a demand.
Is that what Amazon is basically doing?
Yes.
It's very similar, but I mean, in addition to transporting, they own the transport too. So you got the goods, you got the warehouse, you got the transport. I mean, they own every step of their process. So maybe that's a reason why we're still getting things in 2 days from Amazon.
For sure. It's mid-level supply chain when you think about it that way, because clearly Amazon doesn't create anything, right? No. But as a creator, the responsibility is going to be on you as a manufacturer, but you bring, and Amazon will, I mean, and I know as a businessman, you will get to this point with Amazon, but anyone who's done a larger shipment of product to Amazon, not through the drop shipping process, but in the manufacturer to distributor process, Amazon's going to make an order request for, maybe 1,000 items, maybe 10, just based on whoever they think you are. So if you're selling $1 million worth of merchandise, right, whatever that may be, let's call it shirts. If you're selling $1 million worth of shirts, they're going to want all of those shipped to them, bagged properly, so that all they have to do is throw it in that little box with a smile and send it where it needs to go. But that warehouse is in Houston, Kentucky, Austin, like those warehouses are everywhere.
Exactly.
Which subjectively is a WeWork process, but we won't get into WeWork and how that tanked. But it's the same. It's the same thing.
Yes.
So that was the suggestion that I had made, and that's what just made me think about it, because Nike isn't. Oh, now we're going down a rabbit hole. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
we're going.
It just hit me.
So
Nike's not discussing, or excuse me, Nike is the one that is discussing that they have supply chain issues. Other brands, literally every other brand, is not discussing that they have supply chain issues. This is a game of chess, because the largest company right now can get bad PR, and to a normal consumer, it would look as though Nike doesn't have their stuff together. But to us, watching a marketplace, understanding, supply and demand and supply chain, we know that everyone else has to be suffering too. But like you said, if I go into the store and I want a Jordan, average consumer, if I go to the store and I want a Jordan, there's none to be found. I have to start thinking about the second one. I have to start thinking about plan B. The joke about, which ain't that funny to me now when you think about it, the joke about those patent leather Filas that look like the cool grays.
Yes.
Somebody's auntie is going to be buying those for their boy.
Ooh. Somebody's going to have a tragic Christmas morning.
Oh, it's going to be horrible.
I can't even fake a face that would pass if I open up the box. If I unwrap it and saw a gray Fila box, I'm like, okay, you toying with me. It got to be some cool grades in here. And you open it and it's some real Filas in there.
Real cool gray Filas, though.
For cool gray, yeah, they cool gray Filas, all right. They
call them fool grays.
But Christmas would be canceled at that point. I wouldn't believe in Christmas for the rest of my life after that. Like, forget
that whole tree.
Funny story. My first pair of Jordan 11s was actually purchased by my wife when we first dated. It was the Space Jams. And at this time, I wasn't reselling. I was really just starting to understand what the market is like. And she had a sorority sister that helped her out. And she went onto a website. It's like, oh, these are really easy to cop. I got them. And a sorority sister's like, how? And it turned out it was like the 6 ring or something like that looked in that colorway. Yeah. She's like, man, and I almost hit send and it was going to be here quick. I'm like, Say, what would you have said? I don't know.
Hey, listen, this ain't going to work. That's what I would say.
Thank God for sorority sisters that help in these times of need. So they definitely work in our favor. But
hey, listen, I appreciate her for taking the initiative and listening in order to make sure that you had the right thing. It's one thing to get you the wrong shoe size. It's another thing to get you the wrong shoe altogether.
Shoe, right.
That ain't gonna cut
it. Ain't no coming back from that. Like I can't trust you with the shoe from that point forward.
Yeah, like how am I supposed to trust you with my life and my soul? Like I can't even trust you with the right Jordan. So
or sneakerhead problems. That's what it is.